The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family, and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
And welcome to the Seagal podcast. I am your host, Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined as always by my co-host
Trevor
from the West
Gumbel.
Coast. Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were
No, co-host from the West Coast. Yeah, you beat me to it. My God.
Sorry.
And also on the West Coast, he's here because he is this film's biggest fan, also close friend, writer of soon-to-be-published Mothman erotica, known as Touch My Wings, They're Quite Furry. No. Horror, I go with DC Titans, Mothman Prophecies writer of the script of this film, one of the co-writers of the script of this film, my good friend and yours, Mr. Richard Hatem.
I can tell you what to write. All you got to do is write it. That is a quote from Steven Seagal said directly to me and Matt Reeves in his living room when we met him in pre-production for Dark Territory Under Siege 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, nothing can beat what Richard just said on anyone that we've had on this podcast yet. Richard has met and been in the same room as Steven Seagal, the man that we've spent the man that we spent the last 12 episodes of our show talking. Yeah. So if you can't tell, on this episode of the show, we are going to be talking about the sequel to Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. Last time we had a guest on our show was for the original Under Siege. That's what we had our good friend Mr. Vern on. Now we're having Richard on.
Vern is amazing. Oh,
yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
Got all of his books up there on the shelf. I love Vern.
Yeah, Vern's a trip. So, right out of the gate here, Richard, how do we want to talk about this movie?
Well, I want to talk about it by trying to tell some stories I haven't told, because I feel like I've told so many in so many different venues, and I don't remember.
Literally on my other show, We've had I interviewed you, sit down, ask you questions about the movie. Yeah, that was like a year ago, maybe.
I don't know when it was, and I don't know exactly what stories I told, but I was trying to go back through my mind going, well, did I talk about this? Did I talk about that? And there's some early stuff about Matt and I. So the movie was co-written by Matt Reeves, who you may have heard of. He's got a little movie out right now called The Batman.
Oh, is that that new indie flick?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're going to have to. I think it might be on TV pretty soon.
It's on Tubi, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, it will be soon. But I can tell you, sort of based on that, I mean, I'm trying to go back to the earliest development of the script and some various things we did. But then I can also talk about the infamous meeting we had with Steven Seagal that Matt and I talk about to this day. On when his movie opened, we were texting to each other and we just started joking. We just started sending each other quotes from Steven Seagal from that meeting because we still joke about it.
Wait, when what? When the Batman opened?
The day the Batman opened. Okay, so the day the Batman opened, I was in Toronto for production of Titans on HBO Max. We're filming season 4. So I was up there for that. So I was hanging out in my hotel room. It was that Saturday, like March 4th or something. Matt was at that moment quarantined in a London hotel because he flew to England to do publicity and for the big premiere of the Batman. And he got COVID like the day of the premiere.
Lovely.
I'm not even sure he went to the premiere, but it resulted in him being quarantined in a hotel room for 10 days while the movie opened. So then, but then, I mean, he was okay. He obviously got over it and then flew home and, we've talked since then. But on that day, we were just like texting back and forth and we weren't even talking about Batman. Like it started with me sending him a picture of a big display they had at Eaton Center in Toronto. I'm like, oh my God, look, here's a big thing for your movie in Toronto. And within like 2 texts, we were just talking about 30 years ago, and which is what we typically do, and just texting each other quotes from Steven Seagal and what we consider the horrifying, terrifying day we spent at his house.
So before we get to that day, tell our listeners a little bit, let's talk a little bit about where this idea comes from. Because initially, I know you've talked about this before on my show and other places. This script for Under Siege 2, the Steven Seagal movie takes place on a train, not on a boat. Same concept as the first movie, though. Somebody bad is on X vehicle. Steven Seagal happens to be there as well. Things get out of hand. Steven Seagal saves the day. Die Hard on a blank. So, where did the idea come from?
Well, I mean, it came from Die Hard.
Right, because this was originally also not a Seagal movie, correct?
Well, I mean, not in our minds.
Right.
Okay, so 1988.
In your hearts, though. In our hearts, we knew.
Well, listen, I started crying today when I read that Deadline.com article about Bruce Willis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's stepping away from acting now because of aphasia and other health issues. It sounds like he's maybe suffering from some sort of early dementia, early Alzheimer's.
Or he might have had a stroke even.
He's only in his 60s. He's like 67 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking that he's only a little bit older than me, but but I literally teared up because the picture that his family sort of sent in the tweet or in whatever press release or whatever they sent out was a really early picture of him. And it was just like, oh, I've known this actor my whole adult life. And now it's over for him. And we're getting to that. I'm older than you guys. I know I'm older than Chris. I assume I'm older than Trevor.
I'm 42. So, yeah.
What are you?
42.
42. Okay. I'm 55. I'm getting to the place where people are going to start to die. Anyway, the fact that Bruce Willis isn't feeling well and is stepping away from acting is heartbreaking to me because Die Hard was a transformational movie for people of my generation, even though it was not acknowledged as such at the time because everyone felt like, well, I mean, it's not a Martin Scorsese film, so we can't really say that it's brilliant.
And it's the guy from Moonlighting. Come on.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got to play down how much you liked it, but Matt and I loved it. I mean, we the minute we saw it, it was like, this is superior filmmaking. I mean, it transcended every action film of the time. And we didn't know it at the time, but it sort of obviously was now set a bar.
Yeah.
We loved it. I mean, we loved it. Yeah. That was in 88. And that was the summer we graduated film school at USC.
And it's funny you mentioned Die Hard because this has come up a couple times on the Kulturecast, this idea of like perfect movies. And I would contend that Die Hard is a perfect movie. It's perfect, like perfectly cast. Almost every bit of storytelling is pitch perfect. All the performances are great. It's a perfect movie.
It is no frame of that film is wasted.
Nope.
It's one of those films like, it's what I call a no bathroom break film because you don't want to miss a damn thing in that film.
That's fair.
It is just every scene, every frame is just something, just a wonder to behold. And it's just terrific because, and it's kind of funny because it was underestimated. Because Bruce Willis was underestimated.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Because at the time, action stars of them were like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, I think Van Damme was just about starting up. Bruce Willis was kind of just like this kind of regular Joe, smart ass on Moonlighting, who was just playing this semi-romantic kind of if will they won't they thing. And they weren't thinking a serious action star with this guy. No. John McTiernan took a chance on him, and it turned into this amazing 5-movie franchise that's still talked about to this day. I mean, it's definitive film of the genre to some people.
Absolutely, and it was during a time when there was a very stark division between movie stars and TV stars. And for a TV star to suddenly be in a movie, it was kind of like, and already it's down a notch. So the fact that this movie was so brilliant and then, of course, led to a bunch of terrible movies in it.
Are you talking about sequels or movies that rip Die Hard off? Why not both, actually, to be fair?
Well, but you know what? It happens with every movie. I mean, with Silence of the Lambs then led to a bunch of really crappy serial killer movies.
But it also led to 7.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, somewhat, good with the bad, though, right?
But then
this someone led to Batman. The Batman 7 kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of did.
And then I would argue that The Sixth Sense led to a lot of crappy movies. Some of them by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah,
that were all predicated on a late arriving twist that I would say almost universally. There's only one movie that I think did it. And I don't think it was trying to copy The Sixth Sense, but had a very, very late revelation that made you. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. In The Sixth Sense, you enjoyed the movie while it was playing, and you didn't need the twist to make the movie work. At no point during the movie were you sitting back going, well, wait a second, there's something missing here. They're holding some cards back. They weren't. And that's what's brilliant about it. That twist was not added until like a late draft. The movie worked, okay? But then it led to a bunch of other movies where you just sat the whole time going, okay, well, clearly this ain't the whole story. So now I'm just kind of looking at my watch and waiting for them to play the card. And with every passing minute, you're thinking, well, this better be a pretty fucking good card. The only movie that did it, I think, is The Others with Nicole Kidman.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, but those are also inspired by and draw from like EC Comics, because those EC Comics did the same thing. They told that story and then they have the twist at the end, the little inversion at the end to change the story. And that's, right. I mean, Shyamalan mentioned this only because it came as no surprise to me that Shyamalan wanted to and was in talks to and was going to at one point reboot Tales from the Crypt. Mm-hmm. They couldn't get rights to the Crypt Keeper, but when I heard it was Shyamalan, I was like, this makes perfect sense. His entire career has been drawing from that well of utilizing the medium and then having a twist that changes the interpretation, or in a lot of cases, Tales from the Crypt, it does very little, which is almost later Shyamalan films traffic in twists that do nothing for the narrative at all.
Well, I think he kind of got trapped into it because I think he felt like
expectation.
He felt like ever since The Sixth Sense was predicated. Well, ever since The Sixth Sense is known for that twist, that every film he makes has to have a twist to placate the audience. And I feel he felt kind of trapped in that whole thing because I mean he had not The Happening. Well, he did have The Happening, but the one after that, Unbreakable, had that the twist where. Apparently Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson are hero and villain. And that kind of worked, I thought.
Shyamalan redid that twist one more time from The Sixth Sense with Split. That ending of Split, where it turns out that it's actually, like, in that universe, and speaking of Bruce Willis, he's there. Like, that for me was like, okay, you kind of changed the makeup of this movie, because now what's been going on makes sense because we're in this universe where his powers aren't that weird because other people also have powers.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Willis's character is there in this, grounded superhero universe. Then they ruined it with the last movie, but,
Well, I mean,
as you do.
And back to the others, I agree with you. That twist, if I hadn't known about the twist, I probably would have been more shocked and more impressed. Unfortunately, that twist was ruined for me by the most random of places, a Mad TV skit. Because there's a skit where Michael McDonald plays this really annoying box office agent, oddly enough. And this woman's trying to go see a film, and he's like down talking every film, and the only film he'll recommend to her is Shrek. And so she gets tired of hearing about all these films. She goes, okay, what about the others? She'll go see the others. Fine. And being a dick, he tells her, oh, and the twist is the lady and her kids are dead, and they're all in purgatory or whatever. Good night. And people just get pissed and start throwing shit. I'm like, and the movie was still in theaters when that skit came out. So I'm
That's great.
I'm sitting there like, motherfucker. I still watched the others because it was still a film I wanted to watch. And it's a brilliant, atmospheric, moody, film. And, the fact that they go, not just that they're dead, they're in purgatory. That's the whole thing. That was a more interesting, that's a really interesting part of the twist because, when it comes to like twists about people being dead the whole time, they rarely talk about, oh, they're in heaven or they're in hell. They don't rarely talk about purgatory because that's more of a Catholic ideology.
But how explicit was the purgatory concept? I can't remember.
Well, I mean, from what I remember, it's been a while since I saw the film. From what I remember, Nicole Kidman plays this very deeply religious mother of these children. I think at times in the film she tells them or warns them about purgatory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think so. Don't quote me. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But yeah, I think, because she plays this very protective religious mother, wanting her kids to be good, Catholic, children. And yeah, and that when that twist came about, yeah.
I want to see it again.
Then again, Richard, I could be wrong. Don't quote me.
Don't at me.
I'm going to
at me. I don't care, but
at you on Twitter. He's wrong.
You could at me on Twitter. I don't.
Okay, so but if you go back to the summer of 1989, I think.
Okay.
Which is when Matt and I are like, God, we're out of college. We got nothing. We went to USC Film School. Thought that was going to do something for us. It didn't. Spoiler alert.
Boy, that's just makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I say the same thing about my degree 25 years later.
So all film students out there, don't lose hope.
Right.
Oh, I mean, it's funny because people are like, well, do you need to go to film school? And I'm like, well, you don't need to go to film school, but if you do, you might meet Matt Reeves and then become best friends with him and then partner with him on your films, which is like partnering with the smartest person in science to be your lab partner. And then suddenly your game comes up. And
who you know, not what you know, Richard.
And also, being Matt Reeves, you just laugh harder than you've ever laughed in your life. So, and you also have a very, deep emotional, kind of, he's like me. He's a neurotic guy. I mean, we can sit around and just go, oh my God, I have never been more miserable than I am right now. Oh no, this is hell. We're in hell. This is the worst thing ever. Like that became the funniest thing in the world was to sit at the little, Cafe 84 at USC and just go, we're dead. The project we're working on is terrible. We've got nothing. We're going to fail film school. And then we started making jokes about how the cafeteria workers, because we would always be the last people as they're like turning out the lights in this place. And we're like, it's like later when they make the documentary after we've killed ourselves.
What the fuck, Richard?
It's like they'll talk to the cafeteria workers going, I remember I saw them that night. They were sitting there, they were laughing.
Not a care in the world.
They must have known even then. They must have known.
Yeah.
I mean, we were the most miserable people. It was unconscionable how miserable we were. And I'll talk about our misery more as the interview continues. But let me continue. It was 1989. It's the summer. And Matt's like, we should just write a movie. We've got to write a movie and try to sell a movie. We've got to do something. And I'm like, please, because I've been trying to write movies on my own. And let me tell you, it ain't working out. So we do what you do when it's 1989 and you want to write a movie. We went to Blockbuster And we're wandering through Blockbuster going, oh my God, king of comedy. This was the greatest movie of all time. Then we just talk about, it's like, let's just rent this and watch this just for comfort. No. We got to figure out what we're going to write. Looking at this movie and that movie. And oh my God, these great Martin Scorsese movies and these great, the Star Wars movies and all these things. Die Hard. Oh my God, Die Hard. Let's watch Die Hard. And then it was like, what if we wrote a Die Hard movie? And it's 1989. No other Die Hard ripoffs have come out yet. 19 years old. We're like, well, maybe there won't be any more Die Hard ripoffs. Maybe, this is it. I'm sorry, we weren't 19. We were like 22. And it's like, well, let's watch Die Hard. So we rented the VHS, went back to his mom's house in Santa Monica, put on the VHS and watched it. And when it was over, we're like, this is the greatest. We could never, ever do this movie. It's too brilliant. And then we thought, well, what if it was not in a building? Like, what's another place where all these sorts of events could happen? And then we thought, you know what? A train. It's Die Hard at 100 miles an hour. Let's do that. Let's just write that. And we're like, okay, we put VHS back in the VCR and we started watching it again. Only this time we paused it at every scene. It's just like, and he got out a yellow legal notepad and a pen and just started writing down everything that happened. It's like, okay, first scene, airplane, meets guy, fists with your toes. Scene 2, meets Argyle. Whatever the beats were in Die Hard, we just wrote them all down. And then sort of divided it up based on what we knew of screenplay structure. Okay, this is probably the end of Act 1. Here's the end of Act 2. This is Act 3. But we had pages and pages and pages where we had broken down the structure of Die Hard, scene for scene. We basically now had an outline. And now using that, we were like, well, now that we sort of know the structure of this kind of movie, let's figure out what our character is and how that's going to work. But let's really stick to this structure. And it sounds very cynical, but it wasn't. It was because we didn't know what we were doing and we were doing it out of love. I will tell you that. And we were just like, for all we know, this will be Die Hard 2. In fact, that'd be the greatest thing in the world. Let's write a movie that someone looks at and says, I think we have found our Die Hard 2. And that was our dream, of course. So that's how we did it. That's how it started.
So Richard, I have to mention this now that I've heard you tell this story a couple times. This singular moment in your life at that Blockbuster is the one moment in your life that's unchangeable. It's like that fixed moment in time. Because there's like if you had rented anything else, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not to be fatalistic, but like if you had rented anything else, who knows?
Well, here's the joke. Matt is, an artist. And if you've seen any movies that he's done, it's pretty clear.
Which you should. You totally should.
And, he's got a deep, deep, deep knowledge of film and love for film, but obviously has a deep, deep love and understanding of genre. And we both do. And that's what makes things like, an action movie, like a really well-made action movie, a really well-made thriller suspense movie, a really well-made horror movie. Those things resonate not because of their genre, but because they are definitive of their genre. I wouldn't say that Matt loves horror movies, but the handful of great ones, Exorcist, The Shining, have become part of his visual language and narrative storytelling language. And then the same thing in various genres. And you can obviously see that in the Batman. But yeah, we were like, we had no shame. And at USC, everyone just said, some creative executive would come down, from, United Artists Films or something.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they'd be like, when we go home with a pile of scripts every weekend and all we're looking for is a new voice. And you know what? And we're not looking for the latest, Star Wars ripoff, that one gets put down, but we just want a new original voice. And everyone at USC is telling us to write about that summer with Grandpa at the farm in Vermont. And Matt and I are like, Matt grew up in Santa Monica. I grew up in, East LA and Monterey Park. All we did was watch TV and movies. We're like, what do we have? We have nothing in our lives except we're idiots who sat in front of a TV our entire lives. We have nothing to share. So we can't write that movie. So let's write Die Hard.
Good a plan as any.
And let me point out that everyone who went to USC Film School at that time were two of the ones that actually found a career.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to ask you and never have, like, because I feel like that's a little too personal of a question, but like, did anybody else ever have the success that you and Matt have had?
I would not say in our group of classmates in our years, and then he went on to grad school in the early 90s, and I did not, because he wanted to make a movie. So he's like, I think
that's
I need
part
to go
and parcel grad school,
right? Because he wanted to direct. That was always his goal. His goal was not writing.
Just like Alex Winter did the same thing. He went to grad school at NYU, made movies.
Want to make a movie, so he made a movie, an amazing movie. And we worked on it the summer of '91. We worked on his grad school project, which was great. Matt was one of those guys in the very first week of film school. They tell you, okay, go out and make a movie and bring it back into class next week. And it's all based on the word, whatever. And everyone else goes out and lens cap is still on and the camera's pointed backwards and there's no focus and you can't see anything. And week after week after week, Matt brought in these little gems. These perfectly crafted, wonderfully edited. A friend of ours from the music school would write an original score. He was making movies. And all of us are just like, okay, we should just jump off a building.
Right. Or jump next to him.
Or jump next to him. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I was like, okay, maybe I can learn something here. Right. And I will tell you that in the writing of this script, I learned more from Matt because Matt was writing with a director's eye. When I wrote, I was just like, oh, this, then this, and this, and this. And he's like, but what do you actually see on the screen? Right. Minute to minute to minute. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got to do that. But the, 3, 4, 5 years we spent writing this movie, that's what I learned. And that's what I took forward with me. And it had a huge impact.
Well, and, I do not have nearly as prolific a writing career as you do, but it is funny as someone who likes to write like I do and read, it's funny that you say that because, again, people have a hard time really understanding that when you look at a script versus a book, it doesn't cost, like in comic books, it doesn't cost anything to put Spider-Man and Iron Man on the same page together. It costs nothing. Zero. It costs them nothing additional other than someone has to draw those characters or write that character's name down on the page. But like you said, there needs to be this counterbalance of like, if you don't keep in mind that there is an actual budget attached to this and actual expectations and reality, otherwise you will just get completely turned upside down.
Well, and not only that, but I always felt like, well, my job as a screenwriter is to do 50%. I'm going to write the story, but the director is going to come and decide how this is shot. What I learned from Matt, which was really important, was, no, you've got to do everything. You've got to write on. The script has to be the movie. You've got to know, and that doesn't mean, close up. You do have to write in such a way that you're directing the reader's imagination and you're also providing an emotional experience. And that's something that, when I teach classes at UCLA, I try to impart, which is like, if you're writing a comedy, I need to be laughing as I'm reading your script. You can't just say, well, this is a comedy and, Judd Apatow will make it funny. No, if it's a thriller, I've got to be scared and turning pages and like, oh my God, I got to put the script down.
Well, you hear it all the time with books and other things and scripts. Yeah. When people talk about the scripts that they've worked on, their favorite scripts, it's like, I couldn't put it down. I read it in one night. And it's like,
the script has to be the movie.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, that means emotionally it has to be the movie. But for Matt, it literally is the movie. I was lucky enough to read drafts of the Planet of the Apes movies that he directed, Let Me In, remake, and the Batman. And what I realized, years ago was if I read one of his scripts, I've seen the movie.
Right. Sure.
2 weeks ago when I saw the Batman, I'm like, yep, that's exactly to the word, to the beat. Every single thing that you're seeing on screen was written in the script in a way that you experienced it the way you do in the movie. Not just in a dry listing of shots. Emotionally, you're experiencing it in exactly the same way. And that is something that he just instinctually knew. And I don't think he considered himself a writer. I think he does now. But then he didn't. But he knew, if I'm writing, I got to know what I'm seeing.
Right.
And that was a lesson to me because I am not a visual guy.
Well, it really does say something that even the fact that you read the script first before you even saw the movie, the fact that you knew what beats were coming in the film was still, successful and still well made. It's, that's if you can put the same passion in the script that you can put it on the screen, that says a lot about you as a filmmaker. Because, I mean, there's probably been a bunch of scripts that were really good, but when they put them on screen, something fell apart.
Oh God, I'm sure that's like half of every failure in Hollywood is good script, bad movie. You know?
So like I'm saying, it's saying something that a script as written shows up just as good when it's finally produced, and it still gives you that emotion.
Well, it makes me, again, Matt and I talk about this all the time. It's like if we went back to sort of our ultimate draft of Dark Territory, which at the time, I guess it was called Dark Territory. We might have changed it to End of the Line for a particular reason.
That's so good, though. Come on. End of the line. Tickets, please.
Almost sounds like a one-liner Seagal would say in the film.
Yeah, end of the line.
It's not it wouldn't be as good as Harrison Ford saying no ticket.
No ticket.
Get off my airplane.
Yeah, that's a good one, too. Richard, before you kind of expound on what you're going to expound on, I did want to ask, because it kind of ties into it, and not from the shooting script, because that's a completely different story, obviously. But when you and Matt were working on the script initially, what were some original ideas that you guys had kind of kicked around? And like different places you thought about going before you initially decided 100-mile-an-hour train, speeding, can't stop, Die Hard? Like, what was kind of, where else did it go versus where it ends up, with the shooting script aside?
Well, conceptually, Die Hard on a Train was the first thing we came up with. And we just thought, well, it's just so perfect. We've got to do it. The immediate problem we ran into was, well, it makes no sense.
You said it, not me.
It's like, it's fucking 1989. No one rides on trains for any reason. Why would
weirdos ride on train?
Yeah,
hey,
I know, Trevor. That's what I would Trevor go, what? No, honest to God though, like if we're talking 2022, I'm more apt to get on a fucking train than an airplane.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not a thing people are, it's not like everyone you talk to is like, oh yeah, no, I've been on a train a million times.
But if you have a train station in your city, then you might have.
Stand-up comics don't stand up there going, what is it with train bathrooms?
Yeah.
That's very true.
It's not a shared experience.
No.
So we're like, well, okay, so some people want to steal something. It's on the train. Is it like a diamond? It's like, well, then why not just steal it before it's on the train? And then we're like, and if it's a diamond, who cares? Like, no one's like, that's not, the stakes are pretty low.
Right.
And they don't really are they going to take people hostage? Like, what could it possibly be? And then we're like, well, maybe someone has something really important. And that's where we went through things. We're like, okay, for a while, it was a gas additive, which sounds stupid, but we were researching stuff. And at the time,
like fuel, like for fuel,
literally, it was like, what if, like Dow Chemical devises something that makes gasoline like 20 times or 50 times more efficient?
Sure.
So that
you're right.
We could use that now, actually.
But the gas companies would never want anyone to have it because then they would have to buy less gas.
Right. And then they're like, oh, so that's like, that could be worth like.
It's the electric car thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It would lead to a Steven Seagal speech at the end of the film.
Great though. Holy shit. Oh, fire. That's fire down below too.
Yeah. It is in his Native American fringe coat.
Yeah.
When will we learn to live in peace with natural world?
Coal, it's bad for you and the environment. No shit, Steven.
So then it was going to be that, and then it was going to be they either want it or they want to squash it. Then for a while it was a cancer treatment, a cancer cure, like a very specific, like it's all about sort of a schematic for like a blood test that just identifies where cancer is. And again, it's like the terrorists are stealing it on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
Deep six it. But then we're like, well, but then couldn't they just deep six it? So there was it took us a long time and a lot of research to sort of go, okay, it has to be a train so that they can be undetectable. It's like, we're going to be on the move and it's all going to happen right now. There's going to be people on the train who have a thing that is worth money, that is a Department of Defense thing. They're going to get on the train And then they're going to stay on the train and actually conduct a worldwide auction from the train. And then they're going to crash the train into another train.
Interesting.
Kill everyone, kill all the witnesses. They'll get off the train in a helicopter at the very last minute, and no one will ever be the wiser. And it's like, great, this is going to be, we can maybe barely make this work. And then a version of that is what you see in Under Siege 2. Very, very close to that.
So why not? So Richard, I have to ask, why not a boat?
Well, because it had already been done. Oh no, I'm sorry, it hadn't been done.
No, it had. I was like,
no. I'm sorry.
Because what you just said, like, I 100% like listening to you. I can hear you and Matt in a room together 20, 30 years ago, just going. But then they would just take it before. They would just take it before. I can like hear you guys going through it, and it's like.
Cinematically, a train is a million times better.
Right, exactly. It's you set yourselves up for like immense amounts of explanationary work right at step one, because it's like, how do we make the train a believable thing?
Well, I think trains are just a more exciting form of transportation when you're trying to keep something hidden from the military. You know, what better than something that goes like hundreds of miles an hour?
And the train became a metaphor for the movie. Yeah. In our draft, the train never stopped. And that was our rule. Our rule is once we're on the train never stops. So you're on it. It's almost like, it's more like Speed in a way. It's like you're on it and you can't get off it. Okay. I mean, you're fucked. You know,
right. It's not stopping.
Yeah. One of the first things they do is they go into the engine car, they kill the guy, and they rig up the thing. And it's like, okay, we are now going at top speed, and you can't jump off. You can crawl outside. It can be terrifying. You can have a fight on top of the train. You can duck for the tunnel, but the train doesn't stop. Now, in the movie, they stop the train.
Yeah.
Bad idea. And then they start it up again.
Yeah.
Whatever. But our dictum was the train doesn't stop until it explodes. Head on with another train.
Richard, what you didn't know is that when you were having that conversation, Graham Yost was behind you listening and writing all this shit down and said, what about a bus? And then...
Well, I mean, I think Speed... Look, I actually think Under Siege is the original, the first one, is a fun, entertaining movie. I think Speed is more fun and more entertaining for a million reasons, not just the bus.
Yeah.
But okay. So
Speed has something that neither Under Siege movie has. Keanu's not on the bus. He has to get on the bus, which presents a whole exciting scenario that neither Under Siege movie has. Not even Die Hard has it. And that's like its own weird, like, exciting thing, because it's like, this fucking thing's not stopping. You gotta get on it. And it's this whole set piece that's like 20 minutes of the fucking movie. It's like, there's 20 minutes right there. You don't even have to worry about it. It's a set piece on its own. There you go.
Another thing about Under Siege and Speed. Speed is more kinetic. Speed is more kind of boom, 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 boom,
and
boom.
Never stops.
It never stops. Under Siege, I mean, it is a amazingly well-made action film. It may not be like Fast, Furious, kind of everything happening all at one time. It's very kind of methodically kind of directed by what's his name again? I forget.
Andrew Davies.
Andrew Davis, who we all know is a terrific director, can really do action, and he did The Fugitive, which, in all accounts, it's a movie with not that much, frenetic action, but he makes it work and he makes it exciting because he knows how to direct it. And I think Under Siege works in that regard because he really knows how to tell the story through the camera.
Well, what Matt and I loved about Die Hard was that it did a lot of what does not get done a lot in this particular way. It's got a lot of planting and payoff.
Yeah.
And also in rewatching Die Hard recently, they're still rolling out story in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Okay. You're still learning crucial information that adds to your enjoyment. Whereas many Die Hard-esque movies, they set everything up in Act 1, and then the rest of the movie is just sort of like, well, okay, now we know everything we need to know, and now we're just watching a guy kill a bunch of other guys.
Right.
But Die Hard, you don't know about the whole bearer bonds thing, really, until the last 8 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
That's when he explains his whole plan, and Bonnie Bedelia says, "You're nothing but a common thief." And he says, I'm an excellent thief.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. He says,
who are you? That's my favorite part of the movie is Alan Rickman's American accent.
His American accent, yeah.
Who are you?
You're one of them, aren't you? You're one of them.
Yeah.
I prefer the Alan Rickman who says, Mr. Takagi will not be joining us for the rest.
The rest of us. I just love the way Alan Rickman the way he says that line, Mr. Takagi will not be joining us for the rest of it. And just, oh man.
On the count of 3, there will not be a 4.
So, Richard, I am curious about something else from the initial script that before it ends up going into where it goes with the shooting script, which is its own thing, best I can tell, right? Because it ends up getting really changed a lot after you guys sold it, right?
Well, it changed. It never changed really structurally.
Right.
Which is why Matt and I retained sole credit.
Sure.
Because it was rewritten by Brian Helgeland, and then it was another rewrite by Jonathan Lemkin, and then yet a third rewrite by a writer whose name escapes me at the moment. And
somehow it wasn't Joss Whedon, is what you're saying? Joss Whedon, script doctor of the early 90s.
No, it was never Joss Whedon, that's for sure. And it was sort of like our movie was here, and then Brian Helgeland, let's make it this way. Brian Helgeland changed it a lot, making it much worse, but making it more of a Steven Seagal movie, which was never our intention.
Right.
Yeah.
When I say that, what I mean is there's a fundamental difference between a movie about a person, a reluctant, unprepared hero who, against all odds, saves people from 12 armed terrorists, and a movie about 12 terrorists who picked the wrong train to hide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Now that you bring that up, it's like, Seagal has never played the
Everyman?
Never played the Everyman where people underestimate.
Because he's not, hold on. Technically, Under Siege 1 is that movie. Because Under Siege 1 is a complete ripoff of Die Hard.
Yeah, and it's, I'm just the cook.
I'm just a cook.
And of course, Steven Seagal doesn't have the ability to ever play the Jeopardy. Bruce Willis plays the Jeopardy. He has skills. He can fight. He can shoot. But he's terrified.
Right.
Yeah.
And losing the entire time.
Yeah.
There's never a point where he's got him on the run. He is maybe 1 second and then it drops back, which we had to know in our bones as we wrote. We're like, okay, but we gotta do this so that he's incrementally holding his own, figuring things out, but never running the board.
Yeah.
He's always, 1 against a million. And that's something that Harrison Ford can do, weirdly, does it in The Fugitive.
Yeah.
And other actors can do it, but Schwarzenegger can't
he does it in Indiana Jones, too.
In Indiana Jones, perfect example.
Indiana Jones is like the perfect 1 against a million character.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can have, Dr. Jones, that cannot be taken away from you by me.
Like you said, that's the thing about, you know what? Go one step further. That's the thing about literally every single Steven Seagal movie, is he is, immediately when he walks into the room, he's the best at whatever it is, and there is no one that could do anything to harm him. We've talked about this on almost every episode of our show. Steven Seagal never gets beaten for the most part, aside from one movie, China Salesman.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But other than that, Steven Seagal beats whoever the antagonist of the movie is immediately. There's no threat to them. There's no threat to him. It's like that thing from Watchmen where it's like, I'm not locked in here with you.
Yeah.
You're locked in here with me. It's that same shit, right?
We talked about this, like you and I, like I said, we mentioned this a lot. He never takes a hit. You never see him bleed. You never see a scratch on him. His hair is always perfect. He never takes a hit. And I think I know whose idea that was. And like I said, and the only time we've ever seen him killed, other than like Executive Decision, was the what was the name of that film we just watched?
Well, in General Commander he dies, and in Perfect Weapon he dies.
In Perfect Weapon, even when he dies in Imperfect Weapon, it turns out nope, that was his twin.
Yep.
And he still lives in the end to sequel bait us into a film that will never happen.
Well, they're almost subgenres.
It's its own thing
in the genre, and believe me, they're still great movies, like Bruce Lee movie, or it's like
Schwarzenegger.
Like Bruce Lee to Jackie Chan, though. Jackie Chan is more of the Harrison Ford, Bruce Willis.
Right. Yeah.
And his action is more kind of, I wouldn't say lighthearted, but
it is totally. It's Charlie Chaplin-esque.
He likes to play for the laughs and the smiles.
Yeah.
You never feel like there's any, like he's in any like mortal danger.
You don't think he's going to die. And that's, again, hey, James Bond movies. The reason James Bond villains have to be so big is to put James Bond in at least a minute or two of jeopardy somewhere throughout the movie, but go into the movie waiting for James Bond to prevail.
Right.
And that's part of the joy. Same thing with Schwarzenegger. Same thing with Seagal. So it's just a different kind of movie.
Right. It's its own thing, 100%.
Well, with Seagal, I never feel that he's in
Right. No.
Right, but I don't with Schwarzenegger either. But the problem is Seagal in a lot of these later movies, his charisma is never always there. He has it from time to time. You can see it. It is there. I'm not going to discount it completely.
It's in pieces.
But it's not like Schwarzenegger, who's just effortlessly charmless.
Well, in this film, in Under Siege 2, you can tell he has a bit of charisma in this one. A little bit. Kind of, he has a sense of, but it's not that much.
It's the charisma of, look, it's like he is who he is.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood is who he is. Dirty Harry isn't going to lose. Dirty Harry is there to make you feel. There's a character right now in America, in fiction and now on television, that is the embodiment of, I just want to watch this guy win and kick ass while
Jack
he's
Reacher?
Jack Reacher. Absolutely. You nailed it. And that's that's the joy of the character. I've got all the books right there. I love them. I'm enjoying the TV show.
I'll have to tell my mom, Richard, she loves those fucking.
Yeah. I mean,
never read a single one, but.
You're going to read books? Read Killing Floor. Read Killing Floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And read them. They're fun. But that's what it is. It's like, Jack Reacher's going to win. It's going to be tough. And he does bleed and he does take his punches, but he's going to end up on top. And that's the agreement between writer and audience, or performer and audience. Now, yes, we know that Bruce Willis is not going to die in Die Hard, but we also know that the way the story is told, we are being asked to believe that he is a vulnerable human being. And so we understand the story in those terms and we enjoy it for those values. Yeah. And that's the song we were playing.
Well, and that's why the later Die Hard films, 4 and 5 especially, weren't as successful audience-wise, is because they turned Bruce Willis into a superhuman.
Right.
He's jumping cars into helicopters.
He's John McClane.
He's playing John McClane on steroids.
But no. But John McClane meant nothing in the first movie. To be John McClane meant jack shit in Die Hard. To be John McClane only meant anything in 2, 3, 4, and 5, because at that point he's the guy who stopped Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, but in 2 and 3, I still felt the vulnerability of John McClane. In 4 and 5, he just kind of became he became what they were trying to avoid him becoming.
Parody of himself.
Basically. I mean, I still enjoyed 4 sometimes. There was a bit of it I still enjoyed. There was stuff to enjoy in it. But after 3, the series just didn't know what to do with him and didn't know how to make the everyman vulnerability thing work for a 4th or 5th time.
I would cut them the slack of saying that it literally almost mathematically becomes diminishing returns. You can't continually ask an audience to suspend their disbelief of an everyman being caught up in over-the-top situations.
Yeah.
An audience can't do it, but what they can do is accept a more primitive hero tale like Hercules, where it's understood. We're not asking for any sort of 20th century, depth of character. We're just looking for stereotypes. Right. And those stories work. And in the crime genre, in books and in movies, it's typically the latter. It's usually not John McClane. It's usually James Bond.
Well, and as you mentioned, books, it's funny, like in books like, say, something I've been reading, like Cadfael. He's a Benedictine monk who solves mysteries, but these mysteries keep happening where he is. But in books, I just kind of don't care.
Yeah.
But in the movies with Die Hard, it's like, now it's unbelievable because it's a scope thing too. Like all of a sudden he's wrapped up in one of these things again, and it's this big thing with multiple moving parts and all these things. It's like, why is he here again?
Well,
just by goddamn happenstance?
Well, even in Die Hard 2, he says it. He goes, how come the same thing happened to the same guy twice?
That's hanging a lantern on it. That's hanging a fucking lantern on it.
He realizes the situation.
He's a character who knows he's in a movie for one line in the movie.
And also it goes back to this joke people make about Murder, She Wrote. It's like every time there's a murder, she happens to be in the place where it's happening.
That's a literary thing.
where Jessica Fletcher happens to be in that place.
Right.
So I mean,
well, and the thing is that you also have to take into account that the character themselves, they are aware of their own personal history. That's what leads to a line that you quoted. How can the same thing happen to a guy twice? But it doesn't. John McClane inserts himself into Die Hard 2.
Right.
Die Hard 1, he's given no choice. Die Hard 3 is sort of a hybrid, and after that, it's Whacktown. And
the stakes have been raised.
Die Hard 3 is my favorite after the first one.
Yeah, because it kind of is, in a weird way, it becomes goofy, but also he feels like he's sort of jumped into it with no choice. Yeah. It's sort of, I've got to play this madman's game if I'm going to say.
Because it is about him.
It's about him.
It's about him because Simon Gruber played wonderfully, by the way, by Jeremy Irons. That's another thing that made Die Hard 3 work, is that Jeremy Irons was a terrific villain.
So was Bill Sadler, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean.
With that naked ass there at the beginning of the movie.
So I mean, yeah, Jeremy Irons is.
That's one of the greatest introductions to a villain in fucking film history. I'm sorry, just him doing his fucking Tai Chi in front of the screen is just it's great.
And another thing that Jeremy Irons does that Hans Gruber did is make them think it's about one thing, but it turns out it's about another thing. Because at first John thinks it's about revenge for killing his brother Hans, but in fact, no, it's about them knocking over the Federal Reserve, taking all the gold. And
just a common crook.
The common crook. And I just, that's why I think the film worked a lot. Plus, he had Samuel L. Jackson, which is the only time, well, not the only time he's had a sidekick. He had Justin Long in the fourth one. But, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, they worked off each other better than his other sidekicks, I think.
Yeah, these are tricky movies. And, looking back at it, well, there was things going on, obviously, in our lives and in, the lives of everyone in the world at that time. It was 89 and then 90. So we started writing the outline for the movie in 1989. And then we stopped and didn't take it up again until the summer of 1990. And then when we did, it was like, we got to get this done. We've got to do this because we're running out of time and sequels are getting made and we got to get this done.
Yeah.
So it was really the summer of 1990 into the fall of 1990 that we outlined and then wrote the movie. Okay. And the way we did it was I was living in Pasadena at the time and he was living at his mom's house in Santa Monica. And so we were on a 4-day-a-week schedule, Monday through Thursday, because I was living with my girlfriend, who I later married. She was my first wife, now since divorced. But it was like, okay, Monday through Thursday, we can do this. And I was working another job because I was like living on my own. He was living in his mom's house, so money wasn't quite, like earning money wasn't as quite the issue for him as it was for me at the time. So I would work during the day at Tony Roma's or at Almanzar Court, which was a golf course banquet place in Alhambra. And I was like working lunches. And then at 5 p.m, I would drive out to Santa Monica, get to his house, get Subway or something for dinner. And then the goal was 5 pages.
Wow.
Once we put the script, the goal was 5 pages a night. Because we figured, okay, work 4 days a week, that's 20 pages. So we'll work for 6 to 8 weeks and we'll get a script. So, but first we wrote a very, very, very detailed outline where every story problem was solved. Every scene was created, beginning, middle, end. We had a whole map set out for ourselves. And then we wrote the script. So that was summer of 90 to fall of 90. And then in January of 91, our lawyer, Carl Austin, who was a guy who was our age, he was like, early mid-20s and just starting at a entertainment law firm. And Matt knew him from friend of a friend and from an even earlier project that Matt was trying to do. And we gave it to Carl and Carl sent it around town and it went to every single studio. It went everywhere and everybody passed on it. January of 91 was also like, the Gulf War. Like there was a lot of stuff going on. Whatever reason, no one bought it. So then it was like, what are we going to do? Well, 2 producers, like young guys just starting out, got a hold of it and said, can we option this? Can we pay you $500 for the next year and let us try to set this up? Well, at that point, we had nothing else going for us. So we're like, sure. Martin Wiley and Jeffrey Newman. And they said, here's the thing. We think we might have some financing from Japan, okay, from, I think it was from TDK. I think it was literally like a cassette company. It was a Japanese company that wanted to get into making movies. And they were like, we want to do this and we want to do it in Japan on the bullet train, but we want to do it with an American star. So we're like, okay. So we did an initial rewrite, based on their notes. And then we were trying to develop it. And early on, it was the talks were that it would either be Kurt Russell or, ironically, Richard Gere.
Boy, that is ironic. That is ironic. Wouldn't that have been something, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, Richard Gere. Writing a movie for Richard Gere?
Yeah, what would that be like, huh?
You could say it was a prophecy of things to come.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But they were considered like actors who had a high profile and had like international fame, but weren't as expensive as Harrison Ford. So it's like, okay. So we were like, fine. Are you kidding? You're going to send us to Japan to make our movie? That'd be like, we would be the superstars of everyone we know. So we wrote it, we did it, and we're writing it to these specifications and, we don't know yet. Oh, we're trying to find out. Oh, we don't know. So this was like in all of 90. Wait, hold on a second. This was like 92, maybe? Let's see. Hold on. This was like in 91 and early 92. All this stuff was going on. Then late summer of 92, Gary Goldstein got involved. Now, Gary Goldstein was a literary manager, and he worked with screenwriters and tried to get their movies set up at places. And his biggest client was J.F. Lawton, writer of Under Siege and Pretty Woman. So he got a look at the script. Martin and Jeffrey got the script to him. He read it and he said, okay, let me come on as producer and I will walk this into Warner Brothers. Okay. And what that means is, based on my relationships with the people at Warner Brothers and based on the fact that I produced a big hit for them. In other words, I was J.F. Lawton's literary manager and provided that literary material for you. And now you know that I have access to good material. And now I'm bringing you another thing that could fulfill your dream of making a sequel to Under Siege. Let me do this. And Martin and Jeffrey said, okay, so they cut him in on the deal and new contracts were drawn up. But meanwhile, Matt and I hadn't really been paid much, like $500 for, 2 years of work. But that's fine because you do the work on the hope that something big is going to happen.
On spec, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
It's fun. Oh boy, it's fun.
So in late 92, we did all this work, all these rewrites, all the way up through Christmas. And then early in 93, it was like, okay, we're going to send the script out again. Only here's the problem. A very close version of this script written by these same two guys, us, already went through every studio's, coverage process and was rejected.
Right.
What are we going to do? So what they did was they changed the title of the movie from Dark Territory to End of the Line, and they put pseudonyms on. So I was like Andy Ack, and he was something. They just came up with, they just invented two names. That way, it would not trip up any of their files. Any studio getting it would go, nope, we have never read the script. We've never done coverage.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah. And they'd all be new people. Most of the executives had by then moved on and switched places and everything.
Right.
It got sent out again, but primarily it was being given to Warner Brothers and through Gary Goldstein to say, here is this product. Can it be the sequel? And then the story that I've told a million times is that Warner Brothers had already commissioned an in-house script that involved stealth boats for the military. That was the big premise of the movie somehow. And there was another script that Matt and I were aware of called Maelstrom, but we weren't aware of was that it was written by another one of Gary Goldstein's other clients. So Gary Goldstein basically had 2 out of the 3 movies. So he was going to win. The odds were stacked in Gary Goldstein's favor.
It's like representing the same people on both sides of a deal. I'm going to win either way.
Look, there was nothing illegal. There was nothing even unethical about it. It was just like, look, the guy's smart, No,
when it was one lawyer can represent the same 2 different parties in the same deal. That's not illegal either. It's, it happens.
It's like an agent representing 2 writers and going, I want you to interview both of these writers to write this movie. So it was all good. And Maelstrom was an interesting movie. Maelstrom was, and again, this is all back in 1993. Maelstrom was about a giant bank heist against the backdrop of a hurricane. So Storm of the Century will be our cover for knocking off a bank or maybe a series of banks in an East Coast coastal town.
Interesting.
And the one, local yokel cop who has to battle the storm and the robbers to shut it all down.
This sounds familiar.
I mean, it's been done since then, but this guy did it first, or did it in '93.
Yeah, because I think it became Hard Rain, didn't it?
It was I'm not sure if it was that stupid.
Wasn't there a movie that came out like last year or the year before that was essentially this as well? Yeah. Called like F5 or Eye of the Storm or some shit.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? It was the same thing. It like takes place in New Orleans or something, I'm pretty sure. It's a great idea, right?
I mean, in a way, it follows the tradition of cliffhanger, which is, again, Die Hard style storytelling against a natural background.
It's Die Hard in the mountains.
And it had just come out that year, so.
And I've never seen Cliffhanger. It's one of those movies I really want to watch. I just know it's Die Hard in the Mountains.
Oh yeah, check it out. It's fun. It's a fun movie.
I was when that movie came out the same day as another movie I was more interested in seeing. Chris knows what I'm talking about.
Angus?
Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, Super Mario Brothers is great. It's gonna be reappreciated later this year, my friends.
Yes.
Anyway. Richard, I have a question, and I don't remember if I asked this to you last time we spoke, but again, you have the hindsight now of 20 years past this movie, 20 plus years, right? 20 years. 30, right. If you and Matt, when you and Matt were writing the script, who were you writing the lead from in your mind? Were you writing it as Bruce Willis, as the actor?
It was never Bruce Willis. It was always Harrison Ford. And then in later rewrites, we were led to believe we had a shot at Mel Gibson.
No, but I'm asking you, who you two were thinking about when you were writing. That's who you wanted. Uh-huh. That's who you were writing the character as, this is going to be...
So... What we did was...
He has the mannerisms of a Harrison Ford style character.
Exactly. And even more, almost like the Indiana Jones who's teaching at the college, that's who we wanted.
Okay, right. Yeah, exactly. Again, that's the more interesting character for this kind of movie.
Our character had never touched a gun in his life. In the original script, he was an investigator, a rail investigator for the NTSB, the National Transit Safety Board. In other words, we decided, let's just make a character where his only advantage is he knows the playing field better than they do. He knows everything about trains.
Right. Which is a fucking brilliant. The movie that you wrote, I swear to God, that movie is probably, it's as good as Die Hard, right? I genuinely believe, and I've seen the things that you've made yourself and then the things that Matt has made, the two of you, if that movie had been made the way that you wanted it to be made, you and I would probably have never met. But you know what I mean? I think it would be regarded in the same way as Die Hard because that is, for me, the perceived potential of the parties involved.
Because of what it was, it could never exceed Die Hard. It could only be considered one of the honorable mention in the Die Hard genre.
There are few of those. Very few of those.
So our thing was, and then we're like, well, we need to go find out. So we called the National Transit Safety Board branch office in Los Angeles. And again, this is pre-internet, everything. Using the fucking white pages. And we met a guy named Mark Garcia who worked in the LA office. And we set up a meeting with him and we're like, we're two college students who are thinking of writing an action movie on a train. And we just have some questions for you. We went and spoke to him and we're like, well, we want there to be this thing where some people could make it so that two trains could be heading right at each other, but we don't know if that's very realistic. And we don't really know how to do that. And we just want to know if that's a stupid idea. And Mark Garcia said, oh no, that could happen, but it could only happen in dark territory. And Matt and I grab each other's arms
It's the moment of clarity.
It's kismet.
Yes. You're filled with divine grace in that moment. The heavens open up and the light shines down on you.
What is it called? Oh, dark. What is dark? Well, what are you talking about? Well, dark territory is any section of unsignaled track. And there are some tracks way out there because, most of the tracks in America are 150 years old.
Yeah.
And they've just made. They're not laying down.
And they're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
They're in the middle of fucking nowhere because that's the point. You had to get from North Dakota to San Francisco or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, but they're so far out there that they have not been updated with signals. So all we need to know, so the way that internet, national rail travel is arranged is that anytime a train goes into dark territory, you know exactly when it enters and when it leaves, and you have to make sure not to send a train in there. Yeah. And once it's out, now you can send a train going the other direction. But you just have to know that that's dark territory. And we're like, wait a second. But theoretically, if someone fucked with that, you could send two. He's like, oh yeah, oh you could do it. Right. And we're like, oh my god,
because once they're both in there, they can't do anything about it.
Once it's there, no one knows it's happening. You can't do anything about it. So that's like, okay, great. And
which is the greatest fucking conceit. I mean, that's such a good conceit. Where is this? It's such a bummer to me. This is like the greatest conceit in this entire idea. Is they're in there and you can't do anything about it.
And thank God the guy didn't get suspicious of you two asking, hey, is there a way we could possibly
right? Yeah, in this fucking day and age, Richard, you'd be in some FBI file somewhere asking the wrong questions.
Screenwriters, we're trying to write a film. We want to know if a train could possibly get into another train.
Listen, Trevor, I got to tell you, every TV writer has this joke where it's like, oh yeah, I work on Criminal Minds. If anyone looked at my Google pages, I would be in prison for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah. It's like when I talked to the guys who did Poughkeepsie Tapes movie, they were like, oh yeah, we had like fucking boxes full of these like graphic crime scene photos and books about serial killers and shit. And they were like, we didn't know what to do with it by the end of it. We just didn't want to really just throw it away. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, somebody sees that, they're like, what are you doing? I'm work on TV.
Of a writer, too accurate.
And then right now with all the podcasts, the true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
Everyone is just Google searching every, beheadings,
the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst on the internet. Yeah.
It becomes the point where Faces of Death is like mild.
That's fucking That's passe.
Yeah.
Well, we never forgot Mark Garcia. I still have his business card. It's an artifact for us. It's like that was a thing that unlocked everything for us. And then the other thing, the only other research we did was we went to Union Station and we rode an Amtrak train to Fullerton and back. We're like, let's just get on the train. Let's walk it end to end. Let's look at the dining car. Let's look at the bar car. Let's look at how much space there is. And we went on the Amtrak and we discovered that everything we were writing would never, ever work.
The train is way too small.
Train's way too small. They don't have overhead areas where a person can hide. You can't get from car to car in the way we needed. The windows don't open. It was just like, we were devastated. And then we went back to his mom's house and we're like, okay, this is the moment where we say, we're going to leave actual, reality behind. And we're going to build a new reality. And what we very consciously decided was, let's design our train in a way that makes basic sense, decide what it is and what it can do. That's not crazy. It doesn't fly. But let's just figure out what it is. And then let's just write about that particular train, because no one's going to know, because the downside of no one being on a train is followed by an upside of no one's ever been on a train.
Yeah,
that's going to go, well, I'm on an Amtrak.
Unintended benefit of lack of knowledge, right?
It's happened a lot before with a lot of action films. The hero is on this brand new thing that it's the grand opening of this new thing, and nobody's ever been on it. So you're figuring out, hero is also figuring out the ups and downs of the whole thing. It's brand new, technical, and a terrorist taking over the very same day. So yeah,
What a coincidence, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we just figured, no, we want this guy to be a total nebbish, and he hates airplanes because he's afraid of flying. And so that's why he's a rail investigator and all that stuff. And his daughter divorced, and his daughter's on the train. And that's the Holly Gennaro stand-in. And we're like, we won't have Euro trash. Our idea was, it was going to be, for a long time, it was Billionaires Boys Club. It's a bunch of like 20-year-old Harvard assholes.
Ooh, ahead of the times on that one.
Yeah. And so that was it for a long time. And then it became, well, if it's military, it's probably got to be people that have some sort of connection in the military. And then it became a lot more like what Eric Bogosian represented in the actual movie, who was one of the real bright spots.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ.
God, his I mean, one, it's Eric Bogosian. You don't usually think of him as playing, well, especially in these types of films, because he is a very serious monologuist, a playwright, very serious, very, well respected. And now he's playing this absolutely insane villain that I thought was just as good, if not better, than Tommy Lee Jones's villain in the first one.
I don't even think he's insane. He's so damn charismatic.
And he's smart. That's the thing.
Right?
He's smart.
He doesn't have to be physically imposing because he's got...
Well, he's got his skills. Yeah.
Richard, you know what I noticed this time watching the movie? Eric Bogosian's character has Richard Hatem energy.
I never met him. He never met me. So.
I know. It's not.
You never met Eric Bogosian? Oh, that's sad.
It's wild though, because when I watch it, I'm like, he's got like Richard's energy, where it's just like I love that confidence that his character has, because that's what you need.
Oh yeah,
that's what makes a good villain, right? Is the confidence, the confidence to be like, I am the smartest guy in the room.
It's like it's the you fired me, big fucking mistake. You're done.
Exactly. That's exactly.
I'll make you pay for it.
I'm going to make you pay for underestimating my brilliance, and you'll never forget how brilliant I am again.
Yep. Assumption is the mother of all fuck ups.
Yeah.
We didn't write that line.
I know you didn't write that line. That is the other good line from the movie, and I know you didn't write it. There's only one line that everybody really remembers from this movie, and it's the Richard Hatem line.
No, that's the line they remember because it's pithy and it's short.
Oh no.
The only line of dialogue that remains from our draft is, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captor speaking."
That is the greatest line in the movie, and it's a great
line. It is a great line.
And the speech that follows, I mean, literally word for word, the whole thing, federal regulations require that we kill you. The whole was we wrote that in the summer of 1990, on Matt's, Macintosh. It was, in his mom's house. Yeah. And we were rolling on the ground with glee. We were so happy.
And here's why I say the movie that you guys made that never got made because the entire script is gutted would have been something really special, is because anyone I know who has seen this movie, and Vern even mentions it, and Trevor and Father Malone and everybody I know points to that goddamn line in the movie as some really this is one of the better parts of the movie, is because it's so well written and memorable. And then you think to yourself, well, if this is it for that from you guys in the script, what was that script like?
Well, he's arguably he's the best character in the film. He's the character I love watching.
But the tone is set for the character from that scene. It's that scene that sets the tone for the entire character.
This guy is
a dickhead, but a very smart dickhead.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Our goal was to build a machine in the way that Die Hard is a machine. And a thing that we talked about a lot was action as contraption. It's sort of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's that sequence where that really burly guy, the bald-headed Nazi, and the airplane, and it's like it's this very intricate sort of almost a mousetrap. It's like, I'm trying to get in, but I can't. Marion gets in, but gets trapped. Now the thing starts moving. Now I've got to fight this guy. But
here comes the gas tank.
Now here comes the airplane. But now here comes the gas tank. Yep. Now the propeller. Now here comes the flame. And now she's in. Now that it helps that, but hurts this. Mm-hmm. It's this weird Rube Goldberg of action that Matt and I love. And it's present in certain movies, and Raiders is one of them, where you don't just go, hey, there's a big fight. It's like, no, you've got to explain exactly where the fight turns. It's like, then this thing happens, which is good, but then this thing happens, which is bad. So we wrote this. So the end of the movie that we wrote, that we were so excited about, was that, and there were all these things where just, they've got to figure this out, and they distract the bad guy, and this happens. The trains are streaking toward each other. And meanwhile, there's a helicopter, but our guy, the character eventually played by Morris Chestnut, gets up into the helicopter and takes over the helicopter. And now our character gets his daughter onto the rope ladder, and she goes up. And now it's now seconds to collision. And our guy is going to jump, and he looks back, and here comes the bad guy running at him. And so our hero jumps onto the ladder, the rope ladder. Okay. And he looks back, and the bad guy has now run all the way to the back of the train, and has a gun pointed straight at him. They're only about 10 feet apart, and our hero's dead. He's come all this way. He's saved everyone, but he personally is going to die. Mm-hmm. And their eyes meet, and the trains collide, and our bad guy is thrown off his feet, as you would be according to the laws of physics, toward the point of impact, and is killed as he's firing the gun. And our guy is saved, and the bad guy is killed by his own plan, which of course was also something we really wanted to have happen, because for us, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Another example. Sorry.
Well, it was the most beautiful moment. It was like we have achieved exactly the machine we wanted to build.
Yeah.
Now, what the movie did was the trains collide, but Steven Seagal is running away from the point of it. And there's just something weird about it. And that's when you realize, oh, right, you can't do that. That's exactly the opposite. When two cars hit, the two drivers smash into the windshields. They don't fly backward. You can't, especially if you're inside the train.
Right.
But it didn't matter because Steven Seagal was superhuman.
Yeah.
But for us, that was like, well, it's over.
You already missed the goddamn point.
I love how that scene in particular was a scene that Siskel and Ebert were pointing out in their review of the film. And they still enjoyed it. They still gave it a thumbs up and still recommended it. But they were talking about how fucking ridiculous the things in the film were at the moment. Because I was watching that clip they were showing, you see the trains. Basically, it's almost like fitting a round object into a round hole. It just fits so perfectly. It's almost like the other train is like the condom that the dick train is fitting into. And and I'm thinking to myself, no, this does not work. It's fun to watch. It's very fun to watch. It's very exciting and it's very kind of entertaining to watch, but you're not in a minute thinking this could actually happen.
And at that point in the movie, you're just there for the ride. You're enjoying it. It's a big budget movie. Mm-hmm. Seagal's in it, Bogosian's in it. There's enough to enjoy. I mean, I've got no complaints about that movie. I'm still getting residuals, and they're decent. So
maybe I should have rented it last night instead of just Chris's server. Could have given you a couple more bucks.
But people are affectionate about the movie, and I've talked about this too. The longest time I was embarrassed. I know that Matt, who was starting his directing career at that time, really didn't want to be associated with that movie, and I don't blame him. Mm-hmm. I mean, frankly, neither did I. I wanted to go on and do other things, action movies or whatever, but I wasn't thrilled to be like, oh, I've got a Steven Seagal movie. It was nice that it made a little money. It was not a big, by the way, and did not do the box office they wanted it to do, but did okay.
Yeah.
But ultimately, 20 years on, 25 years on, people who watch that movie now have a lot of affection for it because of its excesses.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, no one comes to me and says, oh, yeah, that movie was horrible. What I get is, and almost universally, it's a guy, usually around my age or a little younger, like Trevor, your age. And it's someone saying, oh, my God, Under Siege 2, my dad and I love that movie. And it's this movie that guys watch with their dads. And that just, I mean, that kind of breaks my heart in the best way. I'm like, you know what, then I'm proud. This gives you a great memory with your dad watching a goofy action movie.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
I have a little different story because my dad hated Seagal. He really fucking hated Seagal. Like, there was a lot of things he hated Van Damme, even though for my 15th birthday, I had him take me to see Street Fighter. I could tell the whole time he was watching it, he was in pain. But it was my birthday, so he relented. Anyway, I don't know if I told you this story about how I saw Under Siege 2 for the first time. I think it was the summer when it came out. I was just out of my freshman year of high school.
It was July 1995.
Okay, so I was just ended my freshman year of high school during my summer break. And originally, I called my friend Bobby Simpson, who I usually was the guy I saw movies with. I said, "Hey, do you want to go see Clueless?" Because I want to see Clueless because it had just opened. It looked really good to me. Bobby...
Which I think, by the way, Trevor, I think for me, like, this story, when you tell it, it summarizes, like, meet you for me so perfectly. This is why I love you to death as one of my friends. Is like, I wanted to go see Clueless. We saw Under Siege 2 instead. No.
Well, here's how it happened. I'd say, Bobby, do you want to go see Clueless with me? He goes, no, I want to see Under Siege 2. And I go, let's go see Clueless. He goes, no, Under Siege 2. This went on for like 3 or 4 more times back and forth until I relented. I'm like, fine, we'll see Under Siege 2. We'll go see Under Siege 2. I don't know how we were able to get the tickets. I think either his dad bought them or my dad bought them or my dad just told the ticket taker it was okay to give them to us. But we saw Under Siege 2 in the theater. It was my first Seagal film in the theater. I think it was my last Seagal film in the theater. Yeah, and so me and Bobby went to the Mountain Lake 9 in Seattle, and we went and saw Under Siege 2, and in THX and Dolby Digital surround sound, and I just had a blast watching it. I thought it was a fun movie, and still remains to me one of, if not my favorite Seagal film, because it is a lot of fun. It is. I know Under Siege is a better made film, but Under Siege 2 for me just has that just kinetic, more fun kind of action that I like.
Under Siege is a fresh cheese. Mm-hmm. Under Siege 2 is an aged cheese. It has a little bit of funk on it, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
but it's still cheese.
It's still cheese. I mean, Under Siege 2, honest to God, I've seen Under Siege 1 twice. Mm-hmm. I've seen Under Siege 2 6 or 7 times. Yeah, I think that speaks for itself. I've seen Under Siege 2 as many times as I've probably seen other action movies that are considered, quote, better, unquote, than Under Siege 2.
I just remember just like, wow, this is... And I don't know if I'd even seen Under Siege 1 yet.
I saw Under Siege 2 before I saw Under Siege 1.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Is like, I was like, oh my God, this movie's great. The villain is amazing. Oh my God, they just annihilated a whole city with this weapon that they don't necessarily make clear what it does. Like they say, like causes earthquakes or something, and then another scene they make it sound different. Huh? And now they make it sound like it's something different.
Right. Like, it's a mid-air earthquake machine.
Yeah, and like Kurtwood Smith and the other guy are talking about like
Richard.
And all the time I'm thinking, why the fuck would the government make this? Like, are our weapons not good enough that we have to have a satellite?
Are you critiquing this man's movie in front of him?
I'm sorry, what
it's a compliment
about an earthquake satellite?
What's that? Didn't it say it caused earthquakes? It was an earthquake.
Yeah, but Richard said, what don't you get about earthquake satellites?
Why would the government make it? That's my question.
Why not?
Okay.
Why not? Why wouldn't they?
Dude, the government's made worse things. The government has made things Richard, like a literal gay... The government's made a literal gay bomb. You think earthquake satellites outside of the question?
No, they made something in the water that makes the frogs gay.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, sorry.
Richard, I love you. I love the movie. I don't want you to think that I'm...
No, I'm just worried. My only question to you is, did you finally see Clueless?
On video.
Wow.
I saw it on video.
This is a good movie.
Just think, Richard. One of those residuals that you got was from Trevor.
I would more watch Under Siege 2 again than Clueless. I still love Clueless, but I love Under Siege 2 a bit more because it's
Matt and I were heartbroken. We were heartbroken when we sold it. I've told the story before. One of Matt's best friends, J.J. Abrams, they went to school together, and they, the day it sold and the story broke in Variety and the Hollywood Reporter when they were actual, newspapers. Mm-hmm. JJ came over with a bottle of champagne to congratulate us. And we were like, no, JJ, if you believe what you read, we did not get paid $1 million. It's $1 million deal, of which we're splitting about $90,000.
Yeah.
Which even then was a lot of money.
That's a lot. I was going to say, in 93, that's a lot of money.
Well, I mean,
but not what people were making. Like people were selling scripts for $1 million. I mean, it was every week. It felt like someone from somewhere was selling a script and making way more than we made.
Well,
of course, we had all those dreams, and we thought, and so we were all depressed and like, no, it's nothing, and it's going to be Steven Seagal, and it's a disaster. And JJ was like, "You guys are idiots. You sold a movie. Do you have any idea the number of people in the world who are jealous of you right now and who wish they were you right now? There's a lot of people out there who did not sell a movie today, okay? And yours is going to get made because there's already a star attached and a franchise. So your movie's going to get made. I would say that 99% of the people who sold a movie today, this is the last money they're ever going to get because that movie ain't going to get made. Yours is going to get made. So if you can't enjoy this, get out of the business now.
J.J. Abrams talks like he's in a movie.
Yes.
I'm in a film myself here. He talks like so cinematic. I believe it.
Yeah. So we're like, you're right. And we drank a little champagne with him. And it's like, and then the movie got rewritten. And then we had to go through Writers Guild arbitration to get our credit because Brian Helgeland was the only of the other writers who challenged us. He was the only one who said, I want my name on this movie too, which was ironic because when we went back and, they sent us all the drafts, they would send us the drafts of the people who rewrote us and ask us to comment. And that was so painful. I mean, I know it sounds crazy and it didn't bother me at all, but at the time it was almost like, this is like the girl that broke up with you sending her new boyfriend to you to get tips on how to fuck her.
With pictures fucking her too.
Yeah, and we're like,
oof.
It was so painful.
I get it.
It's your baby, right?
Matt and I are already people who live on the edge of pain. We're importing pain we haven't even paid for yet.
Yeah.
And now it's being served up fresh daily. It was brutal. Right. And read these drafts and just go, what is happening? And then we'd give notes, but it's like, why are we even doing this? And so we experienced all of this. And then what was weird about it was Brian Helgeland arguing for credit, but his draft had been rewritten even more than our draft. Like the subsequent drafts actually brought it closer to us. So we're like, of all the writers who might have a claim to credit on this, he almost has the least.
Wow.
But he submitted for credit anyway because there's a lot of money at stake.
Yeah,
he would have made a lot of money, and at a certain point, money's money. So that's why he did it. So we had to write. The way the Writers Guild works is you have to write sort of a whole defense of why your draft is the draft, and we wrote 25-page document, page by page by page, comparing our draft that we sold to the shooting draft, and basically saying, it's like, yeah, characters are different, everything's different, but still, here's where they get on the train. Yeah. Here's where the terrorists take over. Here's the first moment of, here's the exact, moment. We just went through the structure because the structure never changed. And at the end of it, the Writers Guild panel was like, yeah, it's still their movie. Dialogue's different, but dialogue's dialogue.
Yeah, the beats are the same.
Beats are the same. It's your movie. And for us, that meant, a decent amount of change at a time when we really needed it.
So, Richard, I think we would be remiss because we really haven't brought him up very much, honestly, in this episode. No. And I think, kind of obviously there's an inflection point here where we need to kind of talk about the elephant in the room. No offense to his weight, but Mr. Steven Seagal.
No offense to elephants.
Yeah, no offense to elephants, really, shit. So, Richard, I know it's kind of a thing now, like, Tom Ford, a bunch of these comedians they all have their like Steven Seagal story, right? There's like everybody has like a Seagal story. But I would say, Richard, you and Matt kind of have an OG Seagal story. This is before Seagal stories were a thing. So would you mind telling our listeners the age-old meeting between Matt Reeves, Richard Hatem, and Steven Seagal?
Well, so I'm at Tony Roma's during my lunch shift, and I walk into the kitchen, and the manager says, "Your wife is on the phone. Come take the call." And I'm like, "What?" And you have to realize there were no cell phones, so the idea that. I'm sorry, it wasn't even my wife. It was my girlfriend. He's like, she's the woman who became my wife.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. This is 92, 93. No, we were married. We were already married. So he said, your wife's on the phone. And I'm like, okay, someone's dead. My parents are dead. How would you ever get a call at work?
Right. You're literally living in an episode of Seinfeld. I don't have a cell phone, man.
I had to call the Pasadena Tony Roma's. It had never happened. I'd been working there for 2 years.
Right.
You never called me at any job I'd ever had. You didn't do that. Why would you?
Right.
I pick up the phone. She's like, hey, so I just got a call or you just got a message. There's supposed to be a meeting today. They want to know if you can make it today. You need to call Gary Goldstein. And I'm like, okay. So I call Gary Goldstein. He's like, can you get someone to cover your shift? I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we have a meeting today at 3:00 at Steven Seagal's house. You have to be there. We'll do whatever. We'll tell Tony Roma's we will pay for someone to cover your shift. It's a lot of 90s movie industry bullshit.
I thought you were going to say it's a lot of 90s movie tropes in one scene of your life.
But it's a lot of like there was a feeling even in the 90s of the way the lifestyle of movie people was supposed to be.
Right. Drop everything. It's fast, exciting.
We'll throw money at the problem.
A car, a lot of like, what? I'm like, I have a car. It's like, it's 3:00. I'm like, that's fine. I can leave now. I'll go home, take a shower. Yeah, it's all fine. Well, he lives out in Benedict Canyon or whatever it was. Okay, great. We all converge there at 3:00. Matt's there. I'm there. We're like, what is going on? And of course, it's Matt and I, and we're nobody. We don't know what the fuck is going on. So we're terrified. We're like, what is happening? We're in dreamland. We're going to Steven Seagal's house.
How old are you at this point in your life?
25.
Holy shit. That's wild.
With anything. I mean,
right.
I'm not a movie guy. I don't come from a movie world. Matt didn't. We're not people who are like, oh, meeting with Seagal. I mean, picture yourselves suddenly like, you got to go meet, but
to work with him.
Well, quick question.
You got to nail this meeting or your movie. It's like, oh.
Right. It's not just you're meeting Steven Seagal.
Well, quick question. Before you met Seagal, what was your experience with either Seagal films or your opinion of Seagal films or him as an actor, as a person beforehand?
Had never seen one, but understood that they were cheap.
Yeah.
They weren't real movies. They were.
You didn't have any preconceived notion.
Yeah. I think it was a fairly accurate assumption that it was like, he's not much of an actor. Apparently he's a martial artist, but these are not movies that wide audiences see. These are movies that, he was like a professional wrestler. That's how he felt to us.
Yeah. I think he's his own thing.
Mm-hmm. He's his own thing. He's not trying to act. He's just striding out on stage and being himself. And it's sort of like, that was of no great interest to us.
Remember when Charlie Sheen was doing that whole tour where he just went out and like talked about how weird it was to be Charlie Sheen? That's like Steven Seagal. It's like, there's no gimmick. It's just you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a Steven Seagal movie, then it is it's a narrower thing.
Yeah. He's got his own niche.
But everyone was telling us rightly, they're like, you guys are crazy. This is going to be a summer tentpole movie. You don't turn up your nose to this. So we go into this house. It's Matt, myself, Gary Goldstein, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. I don't know if John Peters was involved.
Oh, God.
Oh, wow. Talk about a head of hair, man.
Oh, God.
He may have been there. Whatever reason, I don't remember, but he was basically brought on as an Uber producer to be the Seagal whisperer. I'll wrangle Seagal. Don't you worry.
And you need to put a giant fucking mechanical spider in your movie.
Yeah, right. Talk about somebody making a buku bucks off of one story for the rest of their lives. Good Lord.
Okay.
So we go to his house in a big ranch style mansion, a very, obviously expensive place. We only were in the living room. I will say this. I remember when we were like in the driveway and people were sort of meeting up and we were like, well, should we go in? Well, because again, no one was texting anyone because it was 1993.
Yeah.
So suddenly the door opens and Steven Seagal is there. And I do remember he filled the doorway. He is tall. He's a big guy. Not every actor is, not every movie star is. Most of them are shorter than you expect. And you've heard this from a million people. It's like, oh my God, I met Sylvester Stallone. He's like this tall. Seagal was like, oh shit, this guy is, Sasquatch. We go into his house, we sit down, and he sits sort of at the head of the room in this chair, and we're on couches. And he starts talking. They're all joking, and oh my God, you're so great, and Under Siege, and blah, blah, blah. And Matt and I aren't saying a word. I mean, we are, just the hangers on here. And Seagal starts to pontificate. He's like, well, I read your script. That's okay. But, you got to really get into it. You got to get into I see this guy's CIA, and I think we got to do, reveal that he's part of the CIA and all this stuff. And we're like, what is he talking? What is for real? Like, do we have to do this? And he's like, the guy who did my last movie, I don't know. I had to tell him cunt hair by cunt hair what to do.
What?
And while he's talking, there's a guy comes like down the hall and is standing next to him and is standing there and standing there and standing there. Finally, Seagal turns and goes, what the fuck do you want? And the guy's like, I just wanted to know if anyone wants anything. And Seagal says, I'll have a cup of tea. Now stop standing there like some cock-sucking faggot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that sounds like Seagal.
Oh, what an insufferable piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like Seagal.
This guy who was like the head of his company, the nicest guy, the guy we learned was like the nicest guy in the world. His job is to take shit from this asshole.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And so he looks around at all of us, but Seagal doesn't say anything and we don't say anything. So this guy walks away and comes back a few minutes later with 1 cup of tea for 1 person in the room.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
And that's when Seagal, he's like, let me tell you, he's like, we can get out. I can tell you what to write. All you got to do is write it. He's like, I'll take you to my island in my private plane. And Matt and I are like, what? He's like, yeah, just you and me, the 3 of us on my island. And we're like, oh, that is never going to happen. Yeah. We know that's going to end with us being hunted.
The island of Dr. Moreau, dude.
No, it's like the most dangerous game with Seagal.
Yeah.
Totally. So we're like, yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So we leave, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, that went great. That went great. If you don't understand what just happened there, it was great. And we're like, okay, because for us, it was the worst hour of our lives. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy was worse than anything we ever could have expected. But we don't know, and we're 25, and we don't, it's like, so then in subsequent years, I would go to meetings on my own and people would go, whoa, so Steven Seagal, did you ever meet him? And I'm like, oh yeah. So what did you think? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was weird. It's kind of weird. And they'd go, well, let me tell you what happened when I met him.
Of course. Yeah.
And then people would start telling stories like what we experienced or worse. So after about a year, I began to realize, oh, okay, so I'm not going to ruin anyone's reputation or shock anyone by saying he was obnoxious.
Yeah.
Because people were literally telling stories that it's like, oh, did he pull a gun on you? Because he brought a gun to Warner Brothers when I met him and put it on the table and started talking about how many people he'd killed. And
wait, really?
Everyone's story about Steven Seagal was worse than the one before.
Right,
so after a while, I'm like, okay.
It's like the aristocrats joke, right?
Yeah. It's like, he didn't threaten to kill us outright. So I guess what happened to us wasn't all that, amazing in terms of Steven Seagal. But it was hard to picture. Like, we knew at that meeting, this guy was over. It's like, this doesn't last. He doesn't have the talent to pull this off. Even guys who have talent, this kind of bullshit doesn't really age well.
No, because
it really didn't age well for him.
His attitude, you probably could tell that this was going to bite him in the ass.
Well, it was tough. It was 1993. It's not like things are now where people actually value people being decent human beings.
Yeah, it's all about reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about quote unquote, cancel culture, but back in the 90s, there really wasn't any. It was more, and plus, word of mouth about a person didn't get sent out as fast as it does now.
Or
like
as
you
far.
hear today about things that happened back then that like, oh my God, I didn't know this person did this back then. But of course you didn't, because there was no outlet for it. I mean, you had the gossip rags, but they weren't ever really taken serious.
Well, it's, you say that, here's my take on cancel culture, that it simultaneously has always existed and doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
In other words, a lot of people canceled Cassius Clay when he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. And a lot of people canceled Cat Stevens when he changed his name to Yusuf Islam. People have been getting canceled for a long time. It's only now that our news streams and social media streams are so quick.
Yeah.
That it becomes, the Dixie Chicks were canceled.
Yep.
People get canceled. Having said that, it's not canceling. It's simply announcing who and what you are. The Dixie Chicks simply said, even though we're country music or we're known for that, we're not right-wing Republicans. We're actually left-wing Democrats, and which should have been your first fucking clue. And now all it is, listen, guys, say whatever you want. All you're doing is saying out loud what audience you want and what audience you don't want. No one's getting canceled. For anyone getting canceled, believe me, they're replacing every one of those lost fans with a different kind of fan who likes the bullshit that they sell.
So
that's it.
Do you think, Richard, that celebrities are becoming less quote unquote phony and being more who they really are today? Or do you think that they're more inclined to try to hide it?
I don't know. Some people have been, Jane Fonda, she got canceled.
Oh yeah, she did. That whole Hanoi Jane thing really fucking blew up in her face.
Sean Penn has always been very open about what he supports and what he doesn't support. Mm-hmm. I would say that a lot of people in the music field, John Lennon, was pretty clear about his political views, and gained fans and lost fans.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, one of the most prevalent ones that I know that really kind of took a like a bullet to her career was Sinead O'Connor. I mean, she never really quite recovered.
Sinead O'Connor, I mean, you've got to question, what was her fan base and did it really change? And also, what she did was puzzling even to people who later, when they understood what she was doing and why, supported it. So it wasn't a thing that she did. People immediately understood, I know exactly what that is, and I'm on board.
Well, nobody wanted to.
Like, is that what she was doing? That's not so bad. I wish she'd said it more clearly. I think I would have agreed that, I also believe in birth control and gay rights.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that her singing that song and tearing up a picture of the Pope meant that.
I only learned later that her tearing up the Pope was more about child abuse in the Catholic faith and the priest. Yeah. But no one wanted to ask her that.
So it just appeared puzzling, and worrisome, and it was during a time when I'm not even sure she was necessarily known for being hugely political, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm misremembering it.
Yeah,
no one was expecting that. We'll say that.
Well, speaking of SNL, people who are never going to be back on the show.
Sinead
O'Connor, Steven Seagal, getting axed from the future guest hosting pool for his terrible takes on rape sketches.
Oh God, yeah, I told it. You've heard this. Have you heard that story about Rich? About what Steven Seagal had an idea for a sketch where he would play a therapist to Victoria Jackson, who is a rape victim, and I think at the end of the sketch he would proceed to have sex with her at the end, or something to that effect. One of his sketch ideas got on the air, where he like beats up this whole office full of executives, and he ends it with, "This is what happens when you cause global warming," and that's where the sketch ends.
Wow.
Or something to that effect. He was a prick. No one in the cast. It's pretty unanimous that he is the worst host ever. Every single cast member agrees that he was the worst, and he was never ever aspect of, admittedly. Because you need to have a sense of humor about yourself to be successful on SNL.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. His career after Under Siege 2, there weren't a lot of movies. There was a small handful of theatrical releases. Yeah. There was Executive Decision stands out as a movie that he did not star in, but played an interesting role in. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people, they were like, that actually is a really good sign because he can deploy his personality in a variety of ways. And when I was briefly working with and for Stephen J. Cannell, when I was writing one of the earliest incarnations of the A-Team movie that never got made, Cannell even said, he was one of those. Cannell was one of the guys who said, "Did you ever meet Seagal? What was your experience?" And I told him, and he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Why did you meet him?" And he's like, "I was actually thinking of casting him as the bad guy in a movie because I think he has that energy and could really play a really great heavy. But man, I had one meeting with him and he just sucked all the air out of the room. And I thought, life is too short. It's not worth it."
I think it goes back to like what I said. He doesn't seem to have a sense of humor about himself.
Any sense of self-awareness.
He has no self-awareness at all. He takes himself way too fucking seriously.
I mean, someone who says cunt hair in a business meeting clearly does not, I don't think, understands the world around them or perceives the world around them the same way a lot of us do.
I think he took the little bit of praise he got early in his career and just ran with it. He thinking he was untouchable the whole time.
Well, not only that, but I will say, being the oldster in the room, that there was a culture. Like I became aware of Hollywood culture in the 90s. Hollywood culture in the 90s was wildly misogynist. Maybe even worse than it had been in certain decades past. It was this was the era of Joe Esterhaus and, showgirls and just a lot of like, hey, we're going to send a hooker over to your house as a thank you for your rewrite kind of bullshit. I mean, a lot of really shitty boys club bullshit. And Matt and I were terrified because we're just like, it wasn't us. We didn't get it. And we're like, we can't do this. Like, we can't fake this. If this is what Hollywood is, we're not going to last too long. And luckily, it began to ease off. Like, I think even 10 years later, it was less. And I think it's much less now. I'm not saying it's great now, but I'm saying it's a lot less. Like misogyny was a badge of honor with these guys. And there are books you can read about the movie business in the 80s and 90s where it'll give you a real good picture of what that was. So he was part of it. And believe me, he was getting rewarded for it. Not a person in his life was telling him, you might want to tone it down on being a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Even if they had, it wouldn't have worked. But still.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood is very slow to adapt when it comes to any type of correctness or awareness. They seem to not take anything seriously until the worst case scenario happens.
Well, because psychopathic behavior has always been associated with show business, even before movies existed. There's always been the insane artist. So up until, very recently, like in the last 5 years, there's always been this feeling of, well, but that's kind of the business we're in. We're about 1 century away from the circus. We're dealing with the artists, and they're crazy, but crazy is rare and profitable. Right. So somehow, you just gotta, I know how to control this, but no one knows how to control anyone. But if it can turn $1, it's worth it. And there's always been a self-perpetuated belief that is something to value and to indulge. You've got to be crazy. Saturday Night Live, we have to be there all night or the sketches won't be good. Really? You can't write them sketches during the day? No, it's got to be all night. And in the 70s, it's got to be with cocaine. But 20 years later, when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were on the show and Will Ferrell, all they were drinking were fucking smoothies and, almond milk. And they were doing yoga and working out and nobody smoked. And let me tell you, sketches were fucking hilarious. It doesn't take that. And then there's writers that I deal with now who are like, well, people say I should go to therapy, but if I go to therapy, I'll never write again. No. You'll write again, you'll write better, and you'll write easier, and you'll be happier. So I think hopefully we're moving into an era in general, in show business, where it's okay not to be crazy and it's okay not to be an asshole. In fact, it's super valued.
You don't have to put on the airs of being a dickhead constantly.
Well, it's always really
not even the airs. Just let that part of you out.
Right.
You're in an environment that begs you to be an asshole. Many people who are not assholes will find, an opportunity because we all have a shitty side. They'll be an asshole.
Right.
But just as easily, if you're in an environment that says, no, we don't really want that or need that, guess what? Suddenly it ain't showing up every day.
Well, it's always fascinated me how a writer's mind actually works when they're writing. Like, what is going through their head emotionally? Like, does their experiences in life affect how they write a thing that has nothing to do with their life? You know how they always say, write what you know, right? What if you're writing something completely like genre specific that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with anything in your life? How much of you emotionally is in that script? Like, what is going through your head, and when is your, like, do you have a certain place you have to be to write successfully, or a certain mindset? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I'll answer your question. First of all, the longer you do it, and if you're lucky enough to get work, you learn very quickly to work under any circumstance. So whether you're in a great mood that day, or it's the worst day of your life, or you've got the stomach flu, or you're hungover, your craft has been developed enough that you can get it done. It's like, okay, I feel like shit, but I know how to write this scene between these two people. And he's breaking up with her. I can write that scene. I know what the needs of this particular project are. Write what you know. The biggest misunderstood rule of writing, and the one that was designed and purposely phrased in that way to shame, humiliate, and keep writers out. Because that's another thing. Writers of past generations believed their own bullshit and got high on their own supply of, I'm magic. And writers are born. You can't teach writing. You have to be born a writer. And you've got to, and then you've got to go, everyone's got to be Hemingway. And you shouldn't pick up a pen until you've gone to war, against the Spanish fascists. It's like, no. And Matt and I had that problem because it's like, write what you know. What, I'm going to write a movie about two white guys from LA who went to film school?
Kevin Smith did it with Clerks.
Right. But what
Richard, right, asshole.
No,
but again, like that again, yeah. For all intents and purposes, right? Like,
yeah, and people who've been in war yes, they can write about war. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And that cop wrote a really cool cop thing. Whatever. Here's the thing. Everyone's been to high school. Everyone's had a crush. Everyone's seen that crush have a crush on someone else. Everyone has gone to a dance with someone that they love, and it's the greatest moment of their life. And sometime that evening realize that the person said yes for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Everyone has gone through everyone has disappointed their parents. Everyone has felt unequal to the task, whether that task is your high school history final or going out and getting a job at McDonald's or asking someone out or dealing with the scary guy. That's what we mean when people say, write what you know. They don't mean write about the Coast Guard because you were in the Coast Guard. They mean in any story you tell. If you're writing about vampires, I've spent half my career writing about vampires, but I'm never writing about vampires. I'm writing about people with a drinking problem. I'm writing about people who got to have some every night and they wish they didn't, but they do. And how does that play hell with the life they're trying to live?
Yeah.
So for me, a vampire, a werewolf, I am writing about me. I'm as long as you know what the metaphor is, Carrie, that's easy. Stephen King didn't write a great book called Carrie because he knew about psychokinesis. He knew about high school politics and the way high school kids tear each other's skin off. And he found metaphor through which to tell that story. And that's why it's the story that it is. And it lived for 50 years.
And another thing with Stephen King, I heard in a video once, like when he wrote the Tommyknockers, this was after his drug or drinking problem. He wrote it as kind of an allegory to about his drinking or drug problem, because the whole thing is about these people who become more creative and more, after they get this substance, alien substance in them, and they want more of it. And so Stephen King wrote that as an allegory to the fact that he couldn't write unless he was on something. So he was afraid that,
It's actually a direct allegory to Robert Towne and his creation of Chinatown and his subsequent fall from grace afterwards. He needs the magic dust to feel anything.
You can go through, and believe me, entire college courses, I'm sure, are designed to do this. Nothing would be more fun than going through, just say the first 10, 15 years of Stephen King novels and just going, okay, what's the metaphor here? What's the allegory here? And sometimes they're very close. I mean, sometimes it's almost just like, Misery is like, well, there's no metaphor. It's about the voracious fan, it's like, and it's literally about a voracious fan. It's like, okay, the dark half is literally about how, what the freedom of the pseudonym, but the curse of the pseudonym, and then you can just go back to, it's like, well, okay, so really the dark half is Jekyll and Hyde. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, or is it Frankenstein? I mean, there's nothing more fun than doing that math, but that's what the best writing is. So yes, sometimes a person lives a life in New York and then writes Bright Lights, Big City or Less Than Zero. But for the rest of us, we're trying to figure out what zombies have to do with, our lives. And it's not that hard to figure it out and then write something cool.
Right, because the best zombie story is the zombies are an allegory for something else anyways.
Yeah, Romero did it perfectly.
And
Romero.
So did Dan O'Bannon with Return of
the
the Living
Night,
Dead.
The first Night of the Living Dead about, racism. Dawn of the Dead was about consumerism. And I forget what the last one was about.
Day of the Dead.
Yeah, I forgot what it was about.
About war, kind of. So Richard, because this episode has been going on for quite some time now, I think it would be only apt, since this is probably the last time that I will ever be talking to you about this movie in a recorded narrative, because this is the second time now. I wanted to kind of cede the floor to you for you to kind of give your kind of what Under Siege 2 ultimately means to you 30 years later, and kind of like where you're kind of like, again, you've already kind of talked to it a little bit, but like, I guess I kind of want to know, with hindsight being what it is now, what does Under Siege 2 mean to you, sitting down and rewatching it?
Well, it's I can enjoy it now much more than I could then, because for many years, all I was seeing were the missed opportunities and remembering all the scenes that we wrote and the way we wanted things to play out. And then you sort of turn a corner after a while. And luckily other things happened in my career that I was very proud of and happy about. And I got to feel that I did express something of myself primarily in the Mothman Prophecies and in the television show that I did, Miracles, which is very Mothman-esque, very much sort of that same mood and tone and of those same concerns. But after that, it was like, oh, you know what? People watch the movie, people enjoy it, people have good memories of it, even though they don't obviously have, Steven Seagal is not anyone that, people are really proud of or excited about now. But back in the day when he was making movies, I think people do have good memories of the summer they saw that movie, or if they saw it with their dad, like I said, which is great. I mean, and look, a lot of people don't really know what movie stars are really like. The vast majority of them are fantastic people, and then some are really, really not. But the movie you're watching, you're allowed to enjoy it. You're allowed to enjoy whatever you want. It's a work of art. It isn't the person. Mm-hmm. I got past my own personal history with it. I came to enjoy it. I went to a 25th anniversary screening of it in Los Angeles a few years back, and it was really fun to see it with a crowd of people far younger than me and see how they reacted to it and what their feeling was. And they just looked at it as this odd artifact. Like, this is nuts. Those effects are pre-CGI. The stunts are bizarre. The logic and tone and just assertion of what the values of the movie are so not the way movies are made today that it's a revelation for people. Yeah. And if they like movies, they really find it. I don't know if they find it campy. Maybe campy is part of it, but they certainly get a lot out of it and a lot to enjoy. So I have all, good memories. I love Vern's book. I love Vern's coverage of it. I love Vern.
Well, and so do we. I was going to say, so do we.
And when I look back on it as a time when I learned how to write and when I was spending, hours and hours and hours. I mean, I've never spent as much time with Matt since, because he went off to direct and I went off into television, which was always my number one goal. And we've remained friends ever since, and we've seen each other and we've even worked together. He directed the Miracles pilot, which is beautiful. And yet that was when we were young and hungry and terrified, and both of us utterly convinced we would never work in this business. Yeah. That the odds were just against us, and that who were we to ever think we would ever be able to work in Hollywood? Yeah. And if there's a lesson to be learned, it's that, spend the time. We didn't do it as a lark. We worked for years on it before it ever was read by anyone else, because we wanted it to be the best action movie that had ever been made. Even though it was based structurally on something else, that's what you do. If you sit down to write a romantic comedy, you watch every romantic comedy of the last 85 years, and you put all of that into the one that you write. And there's certain things that are always going to be there, structurally. And that's what we were doing. And we did it with love, and we wrote a script that we loved more than anything we'd ever done. And I think even when we look back at it, we're like, God, that script, that was the one. That was the one that told us that maybe we had what it took.
Do you still have a copy of it? The original, first draft?
I guess the real question, Richard, is that it for that script?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Neither one of us have any. It's like, yeah, we did that. There's, he's working obviously on his stuff. I'm doing my things. It was, what happened. One way or another, it got us both to our next steps. With me, I kind of had to start over, because it's tough when you're moving forward as a writer. People saw that as, well, this is co-written and we don't know who wrote what, so now we need your thing. And it wasn't until actually 1995, the year that movie came out, I wrote another movie that never got made, but it was the movie that got me every job and every meeting. And it was the first one that I ever wrote on my own that was really good. And then 2 years after that, I wrote, or 3 years after that, I wrote Mothman Prophecies. And then that one got bought and eventually made. And then that was the one that really sort of cemented me as, oh, okay, he's a writer on his own.
What was the one in between Under Siege and Mothman?
It was a script that was originally called Truth or Consequences, because it took place in New Mexico, and there's a city in New Mexico.
Yeah, Truth or Consequences, sure, yeah.
And then I changed the title to Day of the Dead, but that was confusing because people thought it was the zombie thing. But I'm like, no, it's Dia de los Muertos.
Fuck, that's weird that we just mentioned that too.
Yeah. And then was in development for a while under the title Redemption, which I never loved. And for a while, it looked like it was going to get made. And then ultimately, it just fell out of development and never quite got made. But it got me the job writing the A-Team movie in 1996, which was, at that time, the A-Team was my favorite show. It was kind of the reason I got into TV writing. So being able to work with Stephen Cannell and write that movie was the greatest year ever. But ultimately that draft never got made. And 14 years later, they made a different version, and that's fine, which was a movie I enjoyed. And then... Is
your version more lighthearted, more like the spirit of the show?
Yeah, I think so.
Because the Joe Carnahan film, I mean, as entertaining as it is, it's a really entertaining film, but it's darker than the A-Team usually is.
Yeah,
but it's enjoyable.
It was made at a different time, and Cannell always wanted to do. He's like, the tone I want this movie to have is True Lies. I want it to be over the top, but not to the point where you dismiss it and check out. But it's got to have that feeling. It shouldn't feel like whatever, The Bourne Identity.
It's a good movie to emulate. Yeah. Aside from the problematic stuff in True Lies, it's a great movie.
He loved it. Like, it's funny, but it's big over the top action, and that's what so that was what I was trying to do with my draft. And then, but then Mothman was like, A-Team didn't get made. That script was considered a failure. I was kind of like, Under Siege 2 had come out, was not considered anything great, and I only had shared credit. I was kind of nowhere, and that's when I decided I'm going to write a movie about the supernatural. With no guns. I'm just going to write something totally different. Yeah. And I had no money. I had no offers. I had no nothing. And I wrote that script. And then a couple, 2, 3 very lucky things happened, and it got made. And then that led to the show Miracles, which got me into TV. And the fact that got made was a miracle. So make no mistake. Yes, you got to be talented, and then you have to be lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know the feeling 100%. It's just, you literally don't know.
Well, no. Let me ask you something. Like, after Under Siege 2 got released in theaters, like, were you ever approached by the studios like, hey, what about Under Siege 3? Do you have any ideas for that one? They just kind of...
because Matt and I did not continue as a writing team immediately.
Yeah.
If we had wanted to, and if Matt's goal was to direct, and at the time it didn't seem like us co-writing things was going to lead to him directing things. Mm-hmm. So he in the early 90s also went to grad school, and then was like, I want to make a very small film for my first film, and his agents hooked him up with Jason Katims, and they wrote The Pallbearer, and that was designed to be his directorial debut. And while he was doing that, I was writing the A-Team movie and other big action things, and then ultimately Mothman. So his movie came out, and then Mothman got purchased, and then over a number of years ultimately got made. And so we're just sort of went on different paths. And so we never got a chance to take advantage of Under Siege 2.
Yeah. So the Pallbearer, you mean the David Schwimmer, Gwyneth Paltrow Pallbearer? Oh, I didn't know he wrote that. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
He co-wrote and directed it.
I didn't know.
And it's like you've kind of mentioned, in this this Under Siege 2 story. The other thing is, your original script wasn't an Under Siege sequel to begin with.
Right.
It's like all those things that were essentially scripts for X-Files episodes that got turned into movies, like The One, like Final Destination, right? It's like, we've got this great script. How do we take advantage of pre-existing things?
Yeah, well, it's like with Die Hard with a Vengeance. That was supposed to be a Lethal Weapon film originally.
Yeah.
A lot of films were starting out as like other things.
Spec scripts for other ideas.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of people don't know Die Hard was based on a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. And the original, quote-unquote original, starred Frank Sinatra as, I think it was called The Detective, and he was supposed to be in Die Hard.
Yeah, he had the option to star in Die Hard.
Yeah, he had the option to star in Die Hard, and he turned it down, and they went to Bruce Willis, and the rest is history. Because I really can't see Frank Sinatra going, hey, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
That would have been pretty great, though, wouldn't it?
That was more Telly Savalas than Frank Sinatra, but whatever.
So, Richard, I do want to thank you for joining us. This has been, I think, about as deep of a dive into Under Siege 2 as I don't think anyone's covering this movie because I don't know if there's there must be an action movie podcast out there.
There has to be.
I don't understand why, like, some of these Seagal movies are so fun and they just kind of get discounted because they're Seagal movies. And it's like, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do with this podcast. We do what Richard says. We kind of, we see the film and not the artist.
Yeah.
You know, we watch the film.
Nice way of putting it.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I don't think we've hidden it very well that sometimes we do kind of shit on Seagal on the podcast.
Well, I mean, he has some pretty terrible opinions about stuff. So,
well, I mean, and some of his movies, especially like more direct-to-video stuff, feel a little more self-indulgent, and then we kind of have to talk about that because you can't really not talk.
You know, when you go back and read anything about Hollywood, you know, I mean, go back to the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. 50s, go even further back.
Yeah.
If really reading about who these people were, from the studio chiefs to the directors to the actors, there's a lot of genius and a lot of really reprehensible behavior.
Yeah.
And some of it's a reflection of the time, and some of it's a reflection of Hollywood culture and indulging artistic misbehavior. And
nice way of putting it.
You know, and ascribing it to, well, you know, what do you expect from an actor, a director, a writer,
painter, musician? Yeah.
You know, and then of course we realize, oh, wait a second, but it's everybody. It's politics, and it's business, and it's Wall Street. It's everywhere. It's anywhere people are given power, that power will be used to allow some people to do some pretty shitty things to other people. So it's like, you know, it's just more interesting with Hollywood because you know the names.
Well, and and they're making a product that I think is universally consumed. You know, they're like you said. I was having this conversation earlier. It's like there are terrible people in all these industries. It's just they're not making movies that people watch.
We don't. There's no way to really connect up with the shitty behavior of the people at
Hewlett Packard.
Yeah, some tech firm or some, you know, auto firm or some oil firm. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Definitely not an oil firm, because Seagal will just...
Yeah, he'll show up and kill you, especially if you look like Michael Caine. So Richard, when you're not here, where could people find you if they were looking for you or things that you have worked on?
They can find me on Twitter at Richard Hatem. And if you want to know what I've been doing for the last few years and I'm still doing now, check out Titans on HBO Max. The first 3 seasons are available for streaming, and we're working on season 4 right now, filming in Toronto.
Jesus Christ, there could be 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Who knows?
You never know.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit when you're talking about comic book stuff.
They like to run things into the ground, and God damn it, they will.
Oh yeah, baby.
Let's do it, baby.
This is how you explain Morbius. That's why they made Morbius. They wanted to milk the Spider-Man teat as much as they could.
Exactly.
First word in Morbius is more.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Trevor? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Bad Vertigo. Yeah, basically on Twitter, because Instagram is something I don't really use that much. Twitter I mainly use to troll Scientology, but, you know, yeah, you can find me on Bad Vertigo. You can also find me from time to time on the Kulturecast with yours truly, Chris Stachiw. Yeah, that's where you can go find me. And please find me. I need to be found.
I don't know where I am right now. Help.
I'm lost, man. I'm lost, man. Prophecies.
Well, that was a good one. And as for me, you can find me at cstachiw.com, CSTACHIW.com. That's my link tree. Go there. Richard and I work on a podcast together called Rankin' on Bass. It's a waking nightmare for Richard, a true fever dream of an experience every time we get together and record with our dear friend who's also has his own show, Mr. Mike White of the Projection Booth Podcast, who I work with on other shows like Barney Miller, Columbo, other things that Richard has been on, actually, on episodes of both of those. So you can find all that at cstachiw.com. As for this show, on Seagal.com, and that's it. That's where you can go. We have a Facebook, Twitter, but we just post the episodes. Come on, we're making the content. Come listen
and
to
by
it.
the way, Under Siege 2 is a ponytail up.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's better than Under Siege, so there you go, which I think we talked about Under Siege for like 3 hours. So, and big thanks to you, Richard. This has been a long episode. I think this is probably the longest episode that you and I have ever done together. For Trevor and I, it's probably, I think, as long as the Vern episode, almost as long, maybe a little longer.
Right now we're at 2 hours and 41 minutes. So it's been.
I feel bad for the guy who has to edit this show.
But you know what, though? It's been a great 2.5 hours because this has been a long time in the making. Like, When I first mentioned Under Siege 2, I said to him, "We got to get Richard. We got to talk to Richard."
And then I broke your heart, and I was like, Richard and I have technically already talked about it together. Richard and I have probably talked about Under Siege 2 together for like 5 fucking hours at this point.
But I'm a stubborn son of a bitch, Chris. I'm like,
I know. He was like, we want to have Richard on. I was like, okay, fine.
You got to talk to Richard, man.
Chris knows that I like to talk. So getting me to talk about anything, but especially Under Siege 2, that's not a big ask. I'm happy to do it. And it was so great to be here. And I'm so happy to talk to you guys. And hopefully you guys will keep going with, I don't know, some other podcast. And I can come back and talk to some
Just not Seagal. Nothing fucking Seagal.
Please, no more Seagal. No more Seagal.